All right, so the reading coming from Proverbs chapter 13. We're going to read chapter 13, verse 1, all the way through to 25, basically the whole chapter. A lot of these sayings, you probably break down a few of them, but breaking down every single one as we read is going to take too much time. So, again, let's just run through it, point out some pointers, and keep the keep the scriptures rolling, right? So it starts with a wise son heeds his father's instructions, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. A man shall eat well by the fruits of his mouth, but the soul of the unfaithful feeds on violence. He who guards his mouth preserves his life, but he who opens wide his lips shall have destruction. The soul of a lazy man desires and has nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. A righteous man hates lying, but a wicked man is loathsome and comes to shame. Righteousness guards him whose way is blameless, but wickedness overthrows the sinner. There is one who makes himself rich, yet has nothing, and one who makes himself poor, yet has great riches. A ransom of a man's life is his riches, but the poor does not hear rebuke. The light of the righteous rejoices, but the lamp of the wicked will be put out. By pride comes nothing but strife, but the well advised is wisdom. Wealth gained by dishonesty will be diminished, but he who gathers by labor will increase. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but when the desire comes, it is a tree of life. He who despises the word will be destroyed, but he who fears the commandments will be rewarded. The law of the wise is a fountain of life, to turn one away from the snares of death. Good understanding gains favor, but the way of the unfaithful is hard. Every prudent man acts with knowledge, but a fool lays open his folly. A wicked messenger falls into trouble, but a faithful ambassador brings health. Poverty and shame will come to him who disdains correction, but he who regards a rebuke will be honored. A desire accomplished is sweet to the soul, but it is an abomination to fools to depart from evil. He who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. Evil pursues sinners, but the righteous good shall be repaid. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. Much food in the follows ground of the poor. Let me see that. Hold on. 23 cultivated. Uncultivated. All right, so much food is in the uncultivated ground of the poor, and for lack of justice there is waste. He who spares his rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him promptly. The righteous eats to the satisfying of his soul, but the stomach of the wicked shall be in want. So a lot of these proverbs are proverbs, right? Um, Definitely poetic. A lot of this stuff. Um, but let's break down some of these. I'm kind of do like some of the just the you know the ground zero of morals that we should all practice, and then point out some ones that may not be in our minds of understanding. So with this one, uh, verse 24 of chapter 13 in Proverbs, he said, "He who spares his rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him promptly." So again, this one is letting folks know, parents know that discipline to the kids is a loving thing. It's something that has to be practiced in the household so that your child knows, right from wrong, knows how to act and how not to act, right? Um, and it goes to say that if you are a parent and you aren't willing to discipline your kid when they are out of line, that is a strong example of you you showing that you hate your child. Because if you didn't hate your child, you will correct them so that they can grow up in the right way to succeed in life and not to destroy themselves in life, right? I.e., prison or, you know, God forbid, death. Um, or God forbid, prison too. But, if you had to choose prison over death, chances are, if you think about it, prison, because hopefully that will get you to correct yourself. In death, you can't correct yourself. That's it. You're done. Um, what's another one we can point out? Okay, by pride comes nothing but strife, but with the well advised is wisdom. So, this one is just like pride. We all know pride is a bad thing, but in a sense, we still struggle with that. Again, pride doesn't profit you nothing, right? Pride only being prideful, being stubborn, all these things that falls in the line of pride. It doesn't offer you nothing. There's no value in it. There's no gain from a positive standpoint. But the only thing you get from it is just aggravation from others, hate from others, and that's not a good thing, right? To align yourself with. Um, what's another one? Okay, number 7. Let's do verse number 7 because we all are um, fascinated with riches. Verse 7, I like this one, and I feel like I can simplify it in the right manner. There is one who makes himself rich yet has nothing, and one who makes himself poor yet has great riches. Um, I guess with my understanding on this, I think this is verse 7. I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong, but I think verse 7 is more so alluding to family in a sense. Because a man who makes himself rich, right, he and has nothing, meaning it's not saying that, oh, you can be rich and have a family, but you got to understand when you are chasing after riches, you're putting all your attention and energy into achieving that, right? But then when you have someone who, and one who makes himself poor yet has no, okay, yeah, and one who makes himself poor yet has great riches, um, you can look at that as okay, if you're poor, you don't really have riches, so what? You're putting all your energy and time on, you know, other things like family, love. Um, I may not have money, but I can work on myself to be a better man or for a woman to be a better woman. Um, Raising kids, right? So, And verse 7 is also showing that riches isn't always in is financial, right? Riches is you can be rich in love, you can be rich in spirit, right? You can be rich in family, right? um Rich in wisdom, right? So it's riches isn't just always financial. So I like that verse 7. um right? A wise son heeds his father's instructions, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. So this word rebuke is basically saying, um, rebuke is the writer of Proverbs. The things that are being rebuked is, foolish thinking, broken wisdom, um, wickedness, evil, right? So in this verse 1 of chapter 13, a wise son heeds his father's instructions. All right, a father's instructions um, is supposed to elevate their child. It's supposed to edify their child. It's supposed to teach their child the right things of going through life. Being being profitable as they go through life, right? Um, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. A scoffer doesn't listen to the things that the parents say not to, right? Don't do that. No, don't do that. Don't do that. And I think I'm glad they use the terminology rebuke, because when you are a kid growing up, 9 times out of 10, or in anything, we hear a lot of what not to do. We hear a lot of rebukes, but not a lot of okays. I can do this, I can do that. Um, but the rebukes that's just the way of life, right? We how can I say this? We may not know all the things we can do, but to know all the things we shouldn't do is far more greater, right? So a scoffer, what is a scoffer? A scoffer is a mocker, someone who mocks things, make light of situations, um, try to, all right, so I had to pause the video for a minute, help somebody out. I forgot where I was at. I think scoffer, right? A scoffer does not listen to rebuke. So again, a scoffer is someone that makes light of instruction. A scoffer is someone that, mocks instructions, right? So be a wise son and a wise daughter, and listen to the wisdom of your parents when they rebuke a lot of things that you would want to do or indulge in, right? Um, let's go to verse 2 and 3, and then 4. And let's just keep going, right? So, all right. A man shall eat well by the fruits of his mouth, but the soul of the unfaithful feeds on violence. So again, this is just, being mindful how you speak. Yes, we have freedom of speech. We can speak, and do all these things, freely, right? But you still want to be mindful. You still want to tame your tongue. You still want to make sure the things that you say are valuable and beneficial for you and others. Um, but if you don't move like that, then it's like, but the soul of the unfaithful feeds on violence, right? So a person who doesn't care and just want to use free will how it is, is free. I can say whatever I want, freedom of speech. You gotta understand that they're driven, in a sense. You're driven by violence. You're driven by violence. And then verse 3, he who guards his mouth preserves his life, but he who opens wide his lips shall have destruction. So again, based off of verse number 2, if you are one of those people that, you know, you it's not being afraid to say whatever you want, but it's just you're conscious about the things that you say. You understand that certain things can be said and certain things shouldn't, right? Um, because again, if it's valuable, it's like it goes to the same. If you don't have nothing good to say, don't say nothing at all, right? You have some people that say, "Forget that, I can say what I want," right? And then those who open their mouth widely, right, shall have destruction. Because again, that just goes to show there's consequences. You know, even in freedom, there's consequences, right? So, somebody could be having a bad day and you say some off the wall stuff. Boom. So you just always want to be mindful, taming the tongue, right? They say the tongue is a hard thing to tame, right? New Testament. But at the same time, it doesn't mean not tame it. It still means practice. It's going to be tough, but still practice, right? Um, and being humble helps for sure with that. Patience, being humble, that definitely helps. Let's get verse 4, chapter 13 in Proverbs. The soul of a lazy man desires and has nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. So the focal points on this is the word lazy and diligent, right? So lazy doesn't necessarily means a person that's not active or that's not willing to do anything. A lazy person is, in a sense, I kind of display laziness, in a sense. This one is physically and mentally, right? So physically you can be lazy and mentally you can be lazy as well. So, and the reason why I say mentally, because the word that they said, but the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. So being diligent, what's that, right? Diligent is being mindful of all things, what is it? Um, if you have a goal, you want something, right? You desire something. Being diligent means you're gonna plan it out. You're gonna take your time with it. You're gonna execute in the right places, right, to get what you want. A lazy person may desire something, but one, they may not be physically active in executing, or two, or both, right? Both or two. They could be, they don't have a good game plan to execute, right? They're not willing to put down a game plan to execute the things that they want. And in a sense, we all been lazy from that perspective. I don't care what nobody say. Everyone has experienced being lazy. But the thing is, the things that we experience, we have to come to an understanding of saying, hey, you know, that doesn't profit me nothing. I want to leave that behind and I want to grow in the things that profit me something, right? Um, whether it's that wisdom, better character, um, leaving something for your children, which is a good one too. Let's go to that one. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the wealth of the sinners is stored up for the righteous. That ending part, I'm not sure about. The wealth of the sinners stored up for the righteous. I mean, I think there's another place in the Bible where they say, the money, like the money of wicked people is stored up for righteous men. Um, so from that perspective, I guess, those that are choosing to live the sinner route and make money from that perspective, um, is kind of saying that yes, they may indulge in this money, but they're stacking up the money that they're doing. All this money that they're making is basically like they're making it for those that are righteous, in a sense. Like they're putting in the work of stacking up money, getting money, but in the end, it's going to the righteous. It's not even going towards what they feel it should go, like, to their children or to, you know their family. In a sense, it's going to the righteous. Now, how does that work out? Okay, let's just say, right, I'm a sinner and I'm getting money and I'm saving it and I have all these plans for this money, right? But the thing is, I can get into a lot of legal stuff. I can get a lot of stuff can just, which we'll call BS, right? A lot of stuff I can indulge into that, legally come at me, or I gotta pay this bill, I gotta pay that. And it's just so much. And it's like, dang, all the plans I had is now leaving. And in a sense, you can look at that as saying, right, the money that, you know, sinners, take up, go towards, is stored for the righteous. You can look at it from that perspective, right? In a sense, and that's me trying to understand that. But that's how I kind of perceive when I read that the wealth of sinners is just basically them storing up money for the righteous. That's kind of how I break that down. Um, and a good man leaves inheritance for his children's children. Like, now for me, that was kind of, that's a real good man. Like, a lot of times we think, okay, I want to make sure I leave money for my children, but this one is saying for your children's children. That's a real good man. That's just rule of thumb. Um, that's just rule of thumb. I think it's like when we're living life, it's teaching us to not only, not to just live life for ourselves, but to live life, you know, for others, right? In a sense, right? Don't just get wealthy for yourself, right? Because as you know, reading the Bible is against that. But when achieving wealth, make sure it's not selfish, right? Make sure a good person will leave some money for the kids, and if you got a lot of it, then leave some for the next generation, after your kids, and again, this isn't just from family perspective as well. I mean, I feel like you can spread this out. It's just, don't think selfishly when it comes to wealth. Um, the best way I can summarize that. Try not to go too long. We about to touch 30 minutes soon. Um, a righteous man hates lying, but a wicked man is loathsome and come to shame. So with that one, a righteous man hates lying, right? Why does a righteous man hates lying? Because a wicked man is loathsome and comes to shame, right? In the sense, that's why you don't want to be hated, loathsome, hated, some type of animosity towards you because you lie, and then shameful, right? And lying and people knowing that you're a liar, that makes you feel some type of way. It brings shame to you. Now, some people grow is numb to it, but in order for them to get to that state of being numb to it, they had to experience, you know, being, loathed, and being shameful, feeling shameful. Um, but those two feelings, man, aren't good feelings, man. Um, those aren't good feelings. And because of those, righteous men and, you know, and women, same thing, right? Men and women, right? Uh, they hate that. They hate lying. And plus, if that doesn't shake you up, God hates lying. So that should be the number one thing, right? Um, Righteousness guards him whose way is blameless, but wickedness overthrows the sinner. Um, that's a good one, right? Righteousness guards him whose way is blameless. So I'm gonna end it with this one. With righteousness, it's saying if you live life righteously, basically, what is living life righteously? Living life um, in this wisdom, right? This wisdom that God is teaching us, being godly, being led by words of advice, words of good living, right? Um, it's gonna it's, it's gonna put your mind in, it's gonna basically transform your mind, right? So when it comes to making decisions, comes to certain actions, comes to, doing certain things, planning out certain things, it's gonna make all of it, it's gonna make all that you do wise, right? So in that sense, it's going, you're kind of protecting yourself. When it comes to financial advice, if you have righteous wisdom, you're gonna make protected um, financial moves, right? If it's wanting to do certain things, go certain places, if you have a mindset of righteousness, right, governed by righteousness, righteous wisdom, right, you're gonna make the right plans. You're gonna make the protected plans, the guarded. You're gonna go to the places that it's not gonna put yourself in harm's way, purposefully, right? Now again, you can't, you can make those right moves and bad things still happen, right? So it's not saying this is like a cloak or a shield of, well, some invisible type shield. Loki kind of is. I kind of look at it like that, but it's just saying that it's gonna help you to make just protected choices, right? Guarded choices. You're not gonna just make random choices like, yo, I want to go to the beach. You ain't just gonna go to any beach, right? A person that's not wise, they just go to any beach. And this beach right here is infested with sharks. Why the heck are you going to that beach, right? That's not a protect. That's not righteous, wisdom. That's not righteous thinking. You know what I mean? In a sense like that. So that's what that means. Uh, Righteousness guards him whose way is blameless, and then, but the wickedness overthrows the sinner. So, basically, people practicing just living life however they want, sinning and whatever, that's wicked living. And from that perspective, you have no boundaries, right? You feel like I can do any and everything. So from that perspective, walking in that mindset, life is 50-50, right? So for those that live, that try to live, righteously, they try to live their life of that 50% of the good, right? And then the other is the one you stay away from. But if you like wicked living, you're doing it all. So in a sense, the percentage of you making, bad choices, choices where the outcome is going to be negative, chances are it's going to be higher on your end because you're living life like I can do whatever. And in that living life as I can do whatever, you know, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have more moments in life where, you take hits, man. Like just, hits that overthrows you, just based off choices and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, hopefully those breakdowns was legit. Again, this is King James version I read from my Bible app. I kind of have the New Living Translation, which will break these verses down even better. So, but I don't know, it's something about King James I like to still kind of read from, just to be able to navigate King James. I just feel like that's like in a sense, it's like a staple, it's like an honor, it's like a badge. So I always keep King James to, kind of keep me on my toes, kind of say. But there are translations that basically you can read it in its simplest form and understanding it, especially as Americans. But yeah, I would definitely say, read Proverbs in those translations that, give you a better understanding. But again, I do King James just to, keep myself on my toes. And I think it's cool to see and read how, the other half was living back in the days. to understand their poetic writings and stuff like that. But for you definitely want to read for from standards that's going to give you a better understanding, especially if if reading certain versions is hard for you to understand, even when you try to break it down. But definitely read it in a translation that's best for you, for sure. But make sure the translation is profitable and not folly. um, but that's it. That's all I got. Proverbs chapter 13. um, yeah, that's all I got. I feel like I want to do this video over, man, but I'm gonna just keep it up. So peace and love. Don't forget Jesus loves you.